Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Solar as an Alternative Energy with a little help from hydrogen and biofuels. My name is Rob Smura. I'll be discussing this with you today, and I have a couple of housekeeping issues. First, if you have any cell phones, please turn those off. If you have any questions, raise your hand, and I will be glad to get to those during that slide that your question is on. Additionally, I'll be handing out a packet that contains all these slides in addition to the paper that this was written on that contains a bibliography. So if you want to look up any of these sources for yourself, they're all listed inside the paper. The United States consumes 6.9 billion barrels of oil in 2009. That's 27% of the world's total oil consumption, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. That's clearly a problem. Here's why. The red lines indicate past discovery. The green lines indicate what they expect to be future discovery, and the black line shows production up through the mid-2000s. And you can see that our future discovery doesn't hold much prospect to continue the oil machine into the near future. In addition to the diminishing supply, we also know that oil comes from areas that are not very friendly to the United States on the whole. We have places like Iran, Egypt, Iraq, where we're currently fighting a war, and that's a problem because our national security depends on oil and powering our industrial machine. Pollution is also a problem. Even if oil would last forever, we can't burn all of it because it pollutes terribly. In addition to that, the rising cost, and you put that all together, and we obviously have a need for alternative fuels. What is an alternative energy? For purposes of this discussion, alternative energy is any energy that is not derived from oil or petrochemicals. They include nuclear, wind, geothermal, solar, biofuel, and other options. This is an example of why. This is Fukushima Prefecture, Fukushima Nuclear Power Complex in Japan. The 4 reactors were completely destroyed, 2 of which exploded from a hydrogen buildup in the roofs. Gen 4 reactors, which are theoretically meltdown proof, will not be online anytime before 2030, according to most estimates. And in addition to that, all reactors, whether they're Gen 4 or earlier, rely on uranium as a fuel source. That's in limited supply. And plutonium and americium, things of that nature, which are produced during the nuclear cycle, are extremely hazardous to humans. Yucca Mountain, what's that? The 2012 budget just hacked funding for Yucca Mountain, and that was where we were going to store all of our used fuel rods. That's the problem. Where are they going to go now? I don't know the answer to that. Fusion, don't we wish? Contrary to fission, splitting an atom, fusion combines atoms together and theoretically would be a wonderful panacea for electrical production. Unfortunately, we don't have any reactors that give us more energy than we put into them for us, and we are not capable of sustaining a reaction. In addition to that, they use helium-3, which is found only in large quantities on the moon. We don't have any reactors on the moon. Wind. Wind is a great idea, and I am a proponent of wind. However, the problem with wind is it's getting attacked on all fronts. Are these windmills eyesores, or are they beautiful works of art? That's up for you to decide. Animal destruction. Animals flying through the blades are caught in low pressure zones behind the blades, which causes their lungs to rupture and death. Health issues. Dr. Nina Pierpont has documented 12 different health problems that range from tachycardia to tinnitus and nausea and more. Geothermal. Geothermal is great if you live in Iceland. There's a couple different kinds of geothermal, hot rock and residential. Residential uses solar energy that is put into the Earth's crust and then is taken either into your house, or your heat from your house is put into the Earth in order to heat or cool your house. Hot rock uses the mantle, which heats up layers of rock strata that we then pump water into, and that water is then turned into steam, which is used to turn a turbine to make electricity. That water that we pump into the ground causes thousands of microquakes. There are also very few viable sites that have hot rock close enough to the surface to make them economically viable. Public opinion is also starting to be swayed against hot rock geothermal because of the microquakes. Biofuel is a great option, and it's going to be very, very necessary. A couple of problems with biofuel. One is quantity. We have to make it in mass quantities because things like jet fuel and diesel fuel are going to both have to be replaced and not use petrochemicals, but use biodiesel or bio-JP instead. They also, a lot of them have a net energy loss. You put more energy into growing, fertilizing, harvesting, and then making the fuel than you get out of the fuel itself. Competition for food resources. Ethanol, for example, is based on corn. Corn is very popular for making ethanol. So that puts a burden on the human population as far as competition for food. Solar. I love solar. Solar's a great idea. Solar's limitless. My lawyers made me put this in here. Nothing is really limitless except infinity. I ran this by them before the presentation, so they're one caveat there. Clean. It's very clean, and there have been tremendous new advancements lately in solar. Solar energy is limitless. 120,000 terawatts strike the Earth's surface every day. That's 43.8 million terawatts per year. Humans only use 14.5 terawatts annually. So that means, if you do the math, and I did, that means every single day we get 8,275 years worth of solar radiation. It's clean. There are no byproducts from solar power, either solar thermal or photovoltaic, both of which produce very clean energy with no byproducts. The one caveat there is some issues with the production of solar panels and their destruction. As long as they're recycled, that should be mitigated. New advancements, flexible cells for use in roofing materials, clothing, building facades, vehicle exteriors. There are tremendous advances in coatings and flexibility that are going to make solar cells ubiquitous. They'll be literally everywhere. How much of our energy could be derived from solar power? All of it. Again, my lawyers, it's only a matter of time and money. Solar thermal, an example of that would be this solar collector powering a Stirling engine. Water is heated up, it uses to power the Stirling engine, and it's used to produce electricity. Another example of solar thermal is preheating water on your rooftop before it goes into your water heater. This is another solar thermal plant using molten salts in Seville, Spain. The solar collectors all point up to the top here where it's used to melt salt. That salt can be used in its molten state. It can be used to power the turbines even in times of darkness or cloud cover because the salt will store the heat for a long period of time. Photovoltaics, they produce electricity directly, and it's then taken out and used to charge batteries or put onto the grid directly with an inverter. What is the problem with solar as an alternative? One word, electricity. We're not used to electricity, we're used to gasoline. Put the gasoline in your tank and go. We'll have to do something with all of this electricity, and that is we'll have to electrolyze water. We'll have to split the water down into its two constituent elements, which are hydrogen and oxygen, and we will have to bottle that hydrogen essentially and use it to either produce power in fuel cells or cool our DC transmission lines, which is next. AC transmission lines are another problem. Most only deliver 765,000 volts at a time, and they're physically limited to 1,000,000 volts. That's because any higher than that, and they physically tear the insulation right off the wires. They also sag dangerously as the load increases. They could short to ground or cause fires. DC transmission lines are subterranean, they're much higher in capacity, and have the added benefit of requiring a cryogenic for those DC transmission lines to be superconductors. The cryogenic we can use? Hydrogen, or supercritical hydrogen gas. What sort of changes would need to be made? Well, there is change ahead, and that is conversion to electric personal transportation. We're going to have to get used to plugging in our vehicles or fueling them with water and running on batteries using a fuel cell or something of that nature. We're going to have to get used to an electronic form of transportation versus petrochemical. Next, biodiesel and bio-JP for large-scale transportation. Power distribution, electricity and hydrogen both being transmitted on the same grid across the United States for everyone to use. Efficiency issues are being overcome on a regular basis. We have solar cells that are much more efficient than they were just a couple years ago. New coatings are being developed, flexibility, all of those things will contribute to solar cells being ubiquitous. They will be everywhere, on your rooftop, in your clothing, on your car, absolutely everywhere. With all of those things combined, I think we are well on our way. Any questions? Thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate it. Have a great day.